Kyle Rittenhouse claims that he fired the first two attorneys representing him, Lin Wood and John Pierce, because they were using him to raise money and actually withheld the funds that were raised for bail, which meant that he spent more time in jail than he should have. Now, he talks about it during the interview with Ashley Banfield. Let's hear what he has to say.
Lin Wood and John Pierce on August 27th became counsel, and they started raising money, and they raised over $2 million before September 5th of 2020, and they wanted to fight extradition with a militia argument, which I didn't even know what a militia was until November 20th when I got bailed out. But they went on to say that I was in an unorganized militia, which is just not true. And they didn't respect my wishes, and they kept me away from my family for 87 days. And I thank them for raising the money, but I could have been bailed out a lot sooner in September if they hadn't kept me in jail.
Now, keep in mind, Lin Wood is one of the lunatic Trump loyalists who continues to push the notion that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. I mean, he was so outrageous that even the Trump camp started to distance itself from him. And here he comes in and immediately tries to represent Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse's family decides to work with him. And he just decided to exploit the situation based on what Rittenhouse is saying to raise money and honestly provide one of the most ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what that defense would have been. I don't know if that's even a defense. Like, oh, he was part of an unorganized militia. Like, how would that help him?
Maybe they maybe thought that, well, that's enough. You got the Second Amendment. There's the word militia is in there. I know we spent the past 200 years pretending we don't see it in that sentence, but now suddenly we see it. He's a militia by himself, I guess. I don't know. It's a stupid thing for Lin Wood to say, but it's also the smartest thing that he's ever said that I've actually seen. He's a madman. And now you can add trusting him even temporarily. By the way, look, if he was stealing money from Kyle Rittenhouse, first of all, I'm not surprised. I don't know that it's true, but I'm not surprised that he was using him for his own ends. He's a grifter. One of the potential silver linings to come out of this is, in theory, people might be able to learn something in general about how pervasive and popular these grifters are, but it's not going to come out that way. I've seen even conservatives saying stuff about how Lin Wood has gone too far or whatever, but they're not learning any general lessons about grift. They're just saying, oh, he's not the right guy. But he was trusted for some time. And so we're supposed to believe that this kid who has been presented to us as this incredibly responsible, hardworking, thinking about his community kid, who's so ahead of, like, when I was 18, I wasn't going to other cities' protests to protect car dealerships or whatever. But at the same time, he didn't know anything about Lin Wood, didn't know that he wasn't trustworthy, didn't know that he was posing with Proud Boys, didn't know what the OK symbol represented years after it had already been discussed widely, constantly. He didn't know what a militia was. He didn't know all of these things. So he doesn't apparently know what signal he's giving by, as you're going to show, the new friend that he has in Mar-a-Lago. He doesn't know what it means to do a documentary with Tucker Carlson literally while your trial is ongoing. So which is he? Is he a way ahead of his time, super responsible, awesome patriot, or a kid who's bumbling through life, not knowing anything in this world that he's willingly injected himself into?
I mean, it could be a mix of both. Like, I mean, I definitely think that I do think back to when I was 17, and was I aware of everything that was going on in politics? Definitely not. But Kyle Rittenhouse, like, the fact that he was motivated to go to Kenosha and kind of like join in with that, like, there were members of militia groups there. They weren't organized and working together, but he was very clearly with them while he was there. Look, I don't know what to believe, right? Like, this is what he's claiming. It's really whether you choose to believe him or not. I do find some of the stuff that he says in the context of this interview hard to believe. But there's really no way of knowing for sure. I want to go to the next video, though, because he kind of expands on how he feels about Lin Wood and why his family chose to eventually fire him.
When and how did you find out that they had raised enough money for your bail and still weren't posting it?
Shortly before I fired before my mom fired Lin Wood, and I want to say December.
But why would she fire him? Did she fire him because she found out that the money was in the pot but wasn't being put towards bail?
We fired him because he was like going on with all this QAnon and election fraud stuff and just stuff we don't agree with.
And so it was his political views that led to you firing Lin Wood?
A mixture of a little bit of that.
And what else was in the mix?
Just how he is as a person.
And what does that mean?
He's insane.
He's insane, which I agree with. But I thought a more interesting part of that interview was where he talks about, you know, he believes in crazy things like the QAnon stuff and that the election was stolen. And it's like, Rittenhouse thinks that's crazy stuff. Because some of his most avid supporters, I don't know. He's definitely said things in both the Tucker interview and this interview that does not go along with what Trump's base is, you know, what they typically believe.
Sure. Yeah. Look, and in theory, that could represent something. If he didn't want to be around or be affiliated, he didn't want his name to be tied to Lin Wood because Lin Wood was saying crazy things about the election supposedly being stolen and, you know, speaking out defensively about the whole QAnon thing. Okay, then that would be a sign in his favor. But if he's doing interviews with Tucker Carlson has spent all this time denying the election was legitimate, and he's been really defensive. And he doesn't often delve into the whole QAnon thing, but when he does, he speaks defensively about those people. Why is everyone so focused on this? There's all these other conspiracy theories trying to both sides it. And well, as you're going to get into, he's been hanging out with one prominent former president who certainly talks a lot about how the election was stolen. So do you want to affiliate with these people that are making those claims, or do you not? Or is it just convenient to be able to stop affiliating with one person and claim that the reason is something that makes you look rational by comparison, but then you continue to spend all your time with people who are spreading the same BS?
Yeah, and look, you have all of these right-wingers like fighting, you know, to be affiliated with Rittenhouse in one way or the other because they do raise money off of him. And, you know, let's just go to the picture that John keeps referencing, because immediately after the jury handed the verdict of not guilty, Rittenhouse did travel to Mar-a-Lago and was pictured with former President Donald Trump. And just, you know, fascinating photo with Kim Jong-un in the background. Just recently, we shared similar images of Donald Trump wearing a Taekwondo getup and an honorary black belt that was given to him with like the same picture of Kim Jong-un in the background. It's just amazing. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And I think you're right, John, in that the very people that he affiliated himself with after the trial is just as bad. Right. Yeah. So whether you believe his like ignorance about the Proud Boys before and, you know, it doesn't matter. What matters is, you know, who he has decided to work with today, who he decided to give the first interview to. That's Tucker Carlson, who was embedded during the trial, Tucker Carlson and his crew. And then you take a picture with the very man who took hate, racism, xenophobia, all of that stuff, which has existed in this country, but it was kind of lurking in the shadows. He took it and like made it totally okay to be overt and transparent in that hatred. And then finally, I want to go to the last video where finally, I mean, Tucker Carlson didn't ask this question. It was very nice to see someone else ask the question of, yeah, why did you take that picture with the Proud Boys? Let's watch.
You have stated that you are not a racist, but yet there's video footage of you using hand signs that are used by groups that are considered by many to be white supremacists. Why have you associated with members of groups like the Proud Boys? Why have you used hand signs that are commonly associated with white supremacy?
That's a good question. I didn't know that the OK hand sign was a symbol for white supremacy, just as I didn't know that those people in the bar were Proud Boys. They were set up by my former attorney, who was fired because of that, for putting me in situations like that with people I don't agree with, by having them set up for security without telling us their background. And if I would have known they were Proud Boys, I would have said absolutely not.
So, to be clear, which attorney put you in that bar?
John Pierce.
He took you to that bar?
He arranged it. He wasn't there, but he set it up and arranged it.
So, John, what say you? Is it John Pierce's fault? Is Kyle Rittenhouse just an innocent, unsuspecting victim of John Pierce's poor decisions, or are you not buying it?
I mean, anything is possible. It is possible to pose with people and not know. I mean, it's possibly posed with 100 people. I don't know. They could have packed that bar. There are lots of people who are big fans on the right of vigilante killers. So sure, maybe he was doing a whole line of, you got some like 3%ers, you got some Oath Keepers, some Proud Boys, some neo-Nazis. He can't know what all of their group affiliations are. That is possible, certainly. It's possible that he didn't know about the OK symbol, even though we had already been through this so many times in the country over literally years. It's impossible. It is at the same time very convenient to say, I don't know who anybody is. I don't know what anything is. Okay, well, you can use that as a defense. And maybe it's true, which is why we get to look into other things that he's done. Him going to Kenosha is not unconnected to an evaluation of what he thinks about these topics. His choice of who he gives a documentary profile of him, the presidents and other former politicians that he cozies up to. We get to see all of these things. If he's so anti-Proud Boy and anti-QAnon and anti, the big lie, well, we're going to see how his media tour continues and who, not just today and this week, but in a month and 6 weeks and in a year, who is he affiliating himself with? What projects is he getting involved with? What products is he endorsing? Because he's not going to simply go away. He's had a taste of this and he wants more. So we'll see how his future behavior matches up to the way he's presenting himself immediately following his acquittal.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Actions speak louder than words, and I guess we'll see which direction he goes in. He told Tucker Carlson that he wants to live a quiet life, that he plans on going to Arizona State University to either study law or nursing. We'll see how that all plays out. And you know what? To be honest, I hope he does go in that direction. But I'm also sure that pull by the right wing, that pull of celebrity and some of the benefits that come along with that might overpower his sensibilities. But who knows? We'll see.